and welcome to the second weekend of the second edition of the Get Set Parent Children's Literature, Art and Music Festival in association with Vishwarang. And I hope all of you beautiful parents and kids have been having a blast with the storytelling sessions, the workshops, the music shows, the art sessions, all of that. So please stay tuned because not just this weekend, we have a third and final weekend of the festival, and you're going to have some very, very exciting shows to wrap up. So more about that later. But today we have with us a very, very exciting person that I'm very excited to speak with, and I'm sure all of you are. Hi, Kuriakose.
Hi, Pallavi. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? And welcome to Get Set Parent.
Thank you so much for having me. All of this sounds very exciting, by the way.
Super, super. No, you're going to be the cherry on the cake because this is the first interaction that we're airing on the festival this season.
That's
so,
nice.
Dear friends, before we pick Kuriakose's brains on a lot of questions that we have, let me take this opportunity to introduce and formally welcome him. Mr. Kuriakose Vaisian has been a lifelong comic book fan, growing up on a steady diet of Tinkle, Amar Chitra Katha, Archie's, Asterix, and Tintin. He has been with Amar Chitra Katha now for more than 6 years and has recently taken on the mantle of being the editor-in-chief of Tinkle. So exciting. A former journalist and filmmaker, Kuriakose has worked with prestigious media houses such as Malayala Manorama, Deccan Chronicle, and Network 18, and has written columns for publications like Indian Express and Hindustan Times. He also performs as a stand-up comedian, okay? And regularly features in shows in and around Mumbai. So Kuriakose, this is such a versatile profile, and we're thrilled to have you. So a warm welcome again.
When you hear it like that, it's actually like, oh my God, that's what I've done in life. Like, it's weird.
No, but I must, straight off, the first question I have is, as a comic book fan, to now be the editor-in-chief of one of India's most loved comics, was this all a thought-out career plan, and how did this happen?
Not at all. I mean, I'm someone who believes in happy accidents a lot, and I feel like for me, this was never part of the plan. I mean, also, I never had a plan. Again, I don't know if I'm like the right person to be talking to parents, but like kids love it because like, I'm that example of like, oh, look at that guy. He just coasted through life and it all worked out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've always taken up whatever's come my way. And as long as the work is exciting and interesting, like that's basically what I look for. Everything else is secondary, like the monetary compensation or, like the level that you're working at or whatever. If the project is fun, then I'm down for it. And that's sort of like taken me through all these roles. Like when I started out as a journalist, then I did filmmaking for a bit, then I got into advertising for a bit, then I came to Tinkle and Amar Chitra Katha, and I was still doing that entire brand solutions and, like client servicing, so on. And then I slowly sort of like moved into the digital space, then into editorial, and now I'm editor, and it's been a super fun ride, and I can just say I'm very, very lucky. I'm a very lucky individual, so to speak.
No, absolutely. Actually, you say it's a happy accident, but your career story actually sounds. I mean, you put in a lot of hard work across areas to finally, content and digital and
I mean, no, that's true. That is true. I mean, I don't think I've ever shied away from like working hard, like jobs that I'm expected to work hard at. I mean, I would say like I like to like kick it back and like like do nothing. That's like my go-to like pastime, doing nothing.
Yeah.
But if there's a job at hand, there's a deadline, then I'm full steam ahead. So that's always been my approach. Like work hard at like whatever you're doing, and
No, and I specifically, the part where you said you pick projects which are fun, and I think that is really where kids of today are also, geared towards, because I think, 20 years ago, the way we were, the competition, the rat race, of course, all of that exists, but I think following passion and following, excitement and, curiosity, exploration is on the top of, kids today when they pick careers, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, like when I say I'm very lucky, it actually extends to the kind of family I grew up in. My parents being like, like always game for like me doing whatever I wanted to do. So there was never pressure. Like there was never like the, like, oh, you have to be an engineer, you have to be a doctor. Also, maybe my parents just decided he doesn't have the brains for that. But no, they've always been very supportive of all my choices and what I wanted to do. So, and that's true. Like for today's kids, I'm seeing more and more of that. I think it's also because today's parents are, they more aware of the options out there, the more the possibilities of like the different kind of careers you can have, and it doesn't have to be like there is, of course, there is today's version of the engineer doctor, which is I would say your the coder and the MBA, which is like like today's generation is all about like that, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's so much like I mean, parents are willing to like let kids experiment and do what they want to do. So you have people doing experimental dance, for example, or like who's like a poet full time and who's like in script writing and like so it's really lovely to see that, and I'm hoping it'll lead to even more kids being able to follow their dreams.
Correct. Yeah. Millennial parents, I think today's generation is all millennial parents, bringing up children. And it's very refreshing to see the space a lot of parents are giving their kids.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, right? When we grew up, it was very different. So these are parents who were kids then and who've seen the other side of it, and they want their kids to have more options. And it all comes from a place of love. Like, when our parents did it, they were looking out for our best interests. This is what is safe and this is what will work for them. And they want them to be secure. And it was a different time. Like, I mean, like early 90s, you had liberalization and like the entire scenario just changed, right?
Yeah.
Like a government job used to be the thing. Like, in our parents' generation, for example, if you got a government job, you're set. By the time like they became parents, then it was the doctor, the engineer. Business was still like okay, like like something you can experiment with, and now it's again like exploded further. So it'll keep evolving, it'll keep changing.
The evolution of parenting, in a way. So, sorry.
No, I'm saying I don't know if it's evolving for good or for bad, or because we have our own sets of problems. We're nowhere like perfect, it's there is this sense of involvement now that might border on, is this too much? Should we let them go a little earlier? But again, like every generation has its pros and cons, right? So
correct. Talking about pros and cons, let's talk about reading, right? You're the editor-in-chief of one of India's most loved and leading comic, series. So, one of the complaints that parents always come to me with, and, it's the general concern of the day, is the amount of distraction children have today, and which has taken away from the love of reading. Because, if you look back to years we were growing up, afternoons, summer holiday afternoons or Saturday, Sunday afternoons, what else to do but, curl up with a Tinkle or an Archie's or, those kids' magazines, the Champak or, what else was there to do? But, look at the kind of options kids have today. So what are your thoughts on, where reading is going for, the younger generation these days? And what trends are you guys seeing from a, publishing point of view?
So it's a vast subject, so to speak. One, are kids not reading anymore? I don't think so. I do think kids are reading. I do agree with the number of options available to them is manifold compared to what we were doing. Obviously, it is that. Like I come home for my summer holidays, like when I was a kid, and at my grandmother's place there wasn't even a TV. Like there was nothing. Like you either go play outside, which is great. But the moment the sun comes down, what do you do? Like, for that time? And, like it's in books are your best, like sort of like, escape. And I wouldn't call like, everything else that they have today as a distraction, because that's also an art form. It's not easy to like make a TV show or a cartoon or make a video game. And the worlds that they're building, like the world building that happens in these things are also very impressive. And it's competition essentially, and you have to accept it as competition, which is what brings me back to the fact that in spite of all of this, the fact that children still continue to like read, like there is a surge in children's literature today. you have series like Geronimo Stilton now that have come out now, right? Over the last 10 years in the middle of all of this, and it's doing very well. Like your Harry Potter series like popped up and all, so there are, like many examples of this. Even your Indian writers, like suddenly you have so many children's authors today, which didn't exist in the Indian space, so to speak, 10, 15 years back. So kids are reading, they're definitely reading. They do have other stuff to do as well. And it's about fighting for that mind space, obviously. But if the content is good, right, then kids will find you. I think it comes down to that. And for me, it's, like the medium doesn't really matter as long as the kind of stories they're hearing are good stories that teach them, like to be, like well-adjusted, happy. Happy might be a stretch, but at least well-adjusted, secure, safe. Which is, I think, the best we can hope for in the world that we live in today. That's because that's the thing. What are the stories they're reading? What are the stories they're watching? They're listening to? They're playing? Is that what do you say? Advantageous or like positive or so it's just that it's the content that they're being exposed to needs to be of a certain quality, and that's honestly what we're striving for at Tinkle. Is we constantly put out these stories where we are trying to look across the spectrum, be it in terms of gender politics, be it in terms of disabilities, racial issues. There are a lot of hot topics, but at the same time we don't want to preach. We don't want to be like, okay, this is what you need to do. It's about how do you weave these things in so that kids are more well informed, they're more well adjusted, and they grow up as better individuals.
So do you feel the characters of Tinkle have actually changed to adapt to the new situations?
Yeah, for sure.
Give us a few examples.
So, like our main guys, for example, like say Supandi, like from when we were growing up, Supandi was what? He was a servant, he was a village boy, then he comes to the city and he becomes a servant boy. That's his station in life, he doesn't go above that. But over the years, we've seen Supandi also become more ambitious. He's middle class now, proper. He works white collar jobs, he's worked at the call center, he's worked at, as a sales associate, as a delivery boy, as a chef, so he's experimenting with different careers and so nothing is unobtainable anymore. And these are very subtle things. You wouldn't associate this servant class thing with Supandi. But it was there. And we've sort of subtly sort of addressed that no, it's not just making fun of the house help, because that's again very classist of us to do. Shikari Shambhu, for example, was a shikari. It was always in his name. He's never actively gone hunting for sport. Even in the old stories, it was always he was a wildlife ranger and he would stop poachers. He would trap wild animals, man-eaters. So there's always a mission to what he was doing then. And we've sort of extended that more into the wildlife conservation space to the point where he doesn't even have a gun anymore. He doesn't carry a gun anymore. If he does, it's a tranquilizer gun. So it is very clearly in that, nature, environment, wildlife, So that is the, the world that he inhabits. And that's the kind of message that he's putting out there that, these animals, birds, we share this planet with them and we need to think about sustainability. We need to think about biodiversity. There is only one world.
These are the storylines of the current times, and it's great that the characters are.
So this is what this language. It matters to children today a lot, and it should, and it's great that it does. And I do feel our characters sort of do push that, occupy that same space as much as they can.
No, my daughter is 9 and she, we get these Tinkle digests and she devours them. I think I should go back and find time to read those, because I would love to see, Supandi and Shikari Shambhu and, all the other characters, the Nasiruddin Hodja, I don't know if they're still there, all of these characters and how they've evolved. Such an integral
it's a great weekend pastime. In fact, right now, we have an app out, the Tinkle app, which I think we have given access to all the people participating in this festival. So, so it has all of it. There's almost 400 titles on there, which across digest, double digest, and it's perfect for parents and kids to sort of go through together, because there's a lot there that the parents grew up on back in the day, and there's a lot there that's relevant to the child of today. Just across 41 years that we've been around, there's a lot of stories.
No, it's in fact tremendous, and it's it's so heartwarming that comic of that time has survived generations, and it still finds a way to be relevant to today's kids.
We
An
try.
Indian born.
We try. We try really hard. It's not easy.
I'm
But,
sure.
but it's about, I think, like, it's just not just the content, but the way kids consume content is also very important, because now it is more about, short bursts, because they don't have time. Kids today are busier than most adults I know. They have like one class, another class, another class in school, and and then there's like extracurriculars and karate and horse riding and
Oh yeah,
archery. Kids are doing all sorts of things I didn't even think was possible. So how do you like battle for space in between all of that as well? And that's why, so things that we've done, for example, like on the app, we come out with 4 weekly editions, right? And each edition is about 20 to 25 pages. It takes about 20 minutes to read it, but every week you get brand new stories. So it's about keeping that connect, keeping that frequency up, and making sure that they don't get disconnected too much, but they don't have to give too much time also to think, so to speak.
Yeah. No, guys, you should check it out. I put out a static post just a couple of days ago about the annual subscription of Amar Chitra Katha and Tinkle, and the app access is also available with you. I'll be putting out a reel after this, so you can look at that information and download the app, and I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun. So Kuriakose, I had this question on, we spoke about Indian authors, you mentioned today we have, there are so many publication houses. I mean, I think the number of Indian-based authors is like never before today. Though still, do you feel there is a mindset amongst parents that, it's still the Julia Donaldson or the Thea Stiltons and the J.K. Rowlings, which are still the better English literature?
I don't think so, actually. I mean, from what I've seen, and maybe it's like myopic on my part, but the pages I kind of follow on like social media and the groups that are there, and and all the authors they're discussing are all Indian. It's all very rooted in our culture, that's relatable to people from around us. People like Asha Nayamaya or Sudha Murthy. So these are the names that you keep hearing, over and over again, and they want stories that kids can relate to, as a brown kid growing up in this side of the hemisphere, on this side of the world, like the problems that we have and the stuff that they go through. But at the same time, I wouldn't say. See, it's the thing is, I do feel like the world has shrunk over the years, and we do live in a sort of global village now, so to speak, So it's about gathering stories from everywhere and reading whatever you can, wherever you can. So for me, it's, I wouldn't recommend an Indian author because he or she is Indian. I would recommend the author because he or she is good. You know. So while you read a Sudha Murthy and or a J.K. Rowling, but you should read both. Shouldn't be in either or. And I do feel sometimes it is about how do we promote only Indian, or we only read international, and that's not smart. When there is a buffet, why stick to one entry, right? You have so many options. So take your pick, right? What's stopping you?
Yeah. And I think it exposes, obviously gives you a peek into so many different cultures, references to current times, modern references, all of that.
So for us at Tinkle and Amar Chitra Katha, it's a very clear sort of, what do you say? I mean, because we're both in the kids lit space and we both make comics for children. So between us, I think the understanding is, okay, Amar Chitra Katha is going to look at the Indian rootedness, the mythology, the history, the culture, the literature, so on. And Tinkle sort of spreads across, and then we go a little international, we pull stories from everywhere. So we have folktales from China, we have folktales from Japan, from Europe, from Africa. And we also do contemporary folktales from across India. So most of our stories that are written in-house are set in different parts of the country. And are usually set in a very contemporary sort of 2000s, 2010s, 2020s, and that's how we sort of so we are the modern kid of today, and whereas Amar Chitra Katha informs the kid of today about the kid of yesterday.
No, Amar Chitra Katha is another absolute gold mine for the snippets of mythology that I picked up, I think I read every single series. And the first thing I did during the lockdown was I bought that the jumbo pack of the
The ultimate
100
collection.
comics or something, because these are characters that you normally don't read about. And it's actually said that the complexity of family trees and family trees actually has a huge impact on brain development, because kids are plotting who is whose father, and who is
It's not easy. Like, I mean, it really helps in terms of like, making mental maps and like being able to
mental
like,
maps.
and like
Yeah,
get to it,
yeah.
right? And I mean, you're right. I mean, see, for me, like, growing up as a Syrian Christian Orthodox boy in Dubai, the only way I figured out, okay, Hindu mythology, like the Ramayana and Mahabharata, was Amar Chitra Katha. I have
Yeah.
had no other exposure to this entire world. And it's such a world. It's a beautiful, beautiful story, like this sprawling saga that is phenomenal. Like just the layers that
And
are
they're
there.
broken up. I think ACK offers that, a sneak peek into each of those characters. So, you have
So I
the
mean,
mega
yeah, so,
story,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
some
yeah,
of
for
these
sure.
unsung heroes within the big Ramayana and Mahabharata actually come out and have a whole backstory on their own,
Yeah, for
which
sure, for sure.
is very
And it's
exciting.
not just the mythology part of it. Like for me, like history was so much easier because of the
History.
Amar Chitra Kathas I read.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
that's what I like. The both brands have played a huge role in my education. Like, so there's a lot of GK or science facts I would pick up from like Tinkle, like say in terms of Anu Club from back in the day.
Yeah.
And that stuff that we're trying to like sort of recreate today, like in video form, because we want to experiment with different formats as well. But it's just that, like like reading for the sake of reading can be so enjoyable and so educational, and
Correct.
it's not a, what do you say, it's not boring or it's not tiresome. It's not like a task that you have to finish the way, like when kids are told to do homework. It's always like, oh, I don't want to do that. But you say, like, why do you
Yeah.
go read this comic? They go read it and they learn at the same time. And that's amazing, like that they're learning and they're happy learning, and that's what learning and education, it should be a happy experience. It should be excited to learn new things.
Yeah.
So,
So,
yeah.
no, I mean, I think I completely resonate with your thoughts. And as a parting note, what are those three tips you can, give parents to kind of ensure that reading doesn't become a chore like homework is? It's like, okay, you have to read 15 pages before you sleep is a surefire put off for children. They're like, oh, I have 9 pages left, 28 pages left.
Yeah, I
What
mean,
tips would you give
yeah.
parents?
So, I mean, yeah, for sure. Please don't make it a task and like, set like goals. Like, one, I think kids should be allowed to read at their own pace, and
Mm.
like how much ever they want to read, when they want to read. It'll be nice. It always helps when parents and children read together. So
Yeah,
that one day, 1 hour, not 1 hour, also like 15 minutes in a day before bedtime. The bedtime story ritual. It's a beautiful ritual because
yes,
the kid will also, I mean, your child will also associate reading with family time, and like and so it goes a long way in forming good memories and like making it a positive
correct.
experience. Two, I do feel children should be able to choose what they want to read
Mm.
as opposed to parents choosing for them, because what happens is, I mean, it's exactly goes back to our parents generation where they think they knew best, right? But when the child chooses for him or herself, they feel, I mean, one, they are exploring what they want to explore, and like it is more, what do you say, like it is their interest, their area of interest, and
Yeah,
that will tell you a lot more about your child than you choosing a book
yeah,
for him or her,
yeah.
or for them. And the third is encourage reading, buy them books. They're not expensive, they're cheaper than like a McDonald's meal. So like like, do not say no to buying books. Please buy books, buy in print, buy digital subscriptions, whatever, wherever they're reading. Please encourage reading as much as possible. I know like sometimes during like exam time, like board exams and all that, they say, okay, no reading anything else, but I think that's really like horrible, because uh, there's a lot of pressure as it is, and the best way to let off steam, to just unwind a little bit, is reading like a book. It's better than watching TV or like doing anything else. So don't stop your child from reading. I think that's the best thing that you can do.
Absolutely. And I mean, if we look at your room, you have such a beautiful library behind you. It just, I think, creating that ecosystem of learning, of reading, a book corner with a small
Yeah, yeah.
library, and, you sit on
I
Amazon and
keep
order
a
books
yeah.
together. All of
So I
that
keep
is,
a monthly budget every month where I'll buy like 2, 3 books. And, there's a little part of my salary that goes into just like adding to this library, and it's like a thing that I've been doing for the past 5 years now. So and
lovely.
that's this is the end result of that.
No, no, I think you've inspired so many of our parents, and, parents, I would request you to, show this video to your children, because, here we have Kuriakose who grew up as a passionate fan of comics, and today, he's made a career out of his passion, and he's shared so many wonderful tips with us on reading and, the kind of books to read, and, how to pick content. So thank you so much for your time, Kuriakose, and
No problem.
I'm super excited to download the Tinkle app and,
Please do. Please do.
sit with my kids on that. And dear parents, I urge all of you to do the same as well. And maybe we can team up with Tinkle and do some fun quiz or contests.
Oh, for sure, for sure. We
In
have
the
so
future.
many. I mean, for you especially, I feel like there's so many wonderful additions to the cast. So there
Yeah.
are like, characters like the defective detectives who are like these two teenage boys who think there's a conspiracy everywhere and they constantly try and solve mysteries and they're getting into trouble. And then there are these sisters called Inamina Mainamo. There's a boarding school like
Yeah.
dramedy called Noise. So it's fun. I mean, and these are all like kids. I mean, there are characters who will tell you about today's children, like the way they might see themselves because they're so relatable to today's kids. And you see that difference, like, like with our generation, it's always Supandi and Shambhu and, who top the
Yeah.
list. Whereas with
Yeah.
their generation, it's these characters who are suddenly like topping the list, popularity polls.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
check it out. It's amazing. There's some really fun stories. So yeah, that's
Yeah, lovely. Thank you so much. And dear audience, stay tuned for the third weekend of the festival as well. And look forward to all the fun things ahead as well. Thank you. Take care, everyone.